Hey everyone, I'm here at Washington, D.C. Harley-Davidson with Mike Byrd, the founder and event coordinator for the Nova Motorcycle Skills Training and Competition, and we're going to do a little sit-down Q&A. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start one of the premier training events on the East Coast?
Yeah, I mean, it started probably about 3, maybe 4 years ago, unless you want to go like really far back. So we're in our 3rd year doing the Nova Motorcycle Skills Training Competition event. It's been a huge success for the past 2 years. We're hoping that this year, tops the last couple of years, sort of thing. But basically, I started riding when the gas prices back in, I think it was 2007 in DC, was reaching upwards of $4 to $5 a gallon. And so for me, I had at my previous job, I had about a roughly 45-minute drive one way. So I was just getting annihilated on gas. And so I was like, you know what, maybe it's time at whatever I was 40 something, let's just try to figure out how to ride a motorcycle. So I went out and bought me this Yamaha V-Star 750, I think. I couldn't even ride it home. I had to have a buddy of mine, meet me at the dealership and drive it home. And because I could drive a standard, he just was like, hey, just, apply the clutch and gas pedal to, a clutch and a throttle. Easier said than done. But I'm fortunate where I lived in a neighborhood where it's a suburb of DC. And I was able to kind of start branching out. I started on my streets in my neighborhood and then kind of branched out to some of the busier roads before, too long I was on the interstate, in the famous DC Beltway, taking my life in my own hands. So I enjoyed riding. I found out that I really enjoyed it. And then fast forward, I started just happenstance, looking at videos on YouTube. I saw these police rodeos that were having these people do these magical like unicorn pixie dust stuff on their motorcycles, and they're doing these super tight turns on these 1,000-pound bikes. I'm like, I want to do that, I want to do that. And so I went out and I bought me a 2016 Police Electra Glide. It's an old duty bike from Volusia County, Florida. And it was completely civilianized, so I had to rebuild it with the seat and everything and get it prepped for this type of riding. And then I just started training on my own. I took a couple of classes here local, but mainly I was at a parking lot every day that I could, practicing with cones and trying to get the technique down. And so fast forward, I was doing roughly 4 to 6 competitions a year. The very first competition I ever went to was Keystone in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. As you know, Keystone's probably one of our favorites, right? And so that's where I cut my teeth, and I was a novice, and I think I scored 3rd. And so it was an immediate, the drill. As soon as you hit 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in novice, the big chant is welcome to expert. And I was looking at these folks on the expert patterns and going, I got to up my game, And so I started, practicing, and before I knew it, I was holding my own on some of the competitions, and you get some amazing riders out there. I don't need to name them by names, you know the circuit. But and then after about 4 years of riding, 3-4 years of riding, I'm like, I kind of want to do my own rodeo, And so I started taking the little bits and pieces of the rodeos that I had competed in: Hendersonville, Tennessee, Gettysburg, Carvin Classic in Reading, Vermont, Georgia, even, watching, and I was one of the fortunate few to compete in Mid-Atlantic last year. So I took all of the best of every rodeo that I could figure out that I really enjoyed. And I said, you know what, I'm going to put it in my own. And so through the course of my training, I got in very, very tight with my local police department's motor unit, and they welcomed me in, into their family, if you will. And so I started talking to who's now easily one of my best friends, Alex, and we started talking, and he was in my living room. He was just, hanging out. We were shooting bull and everything, and it was like, Alex, I'm thinking about doing my own rodeo. And we just got to talking about it. And I started looking at the charities. I spent a lot of time in the dirt circuit, and overseas in the sandbox. People who's been there know what I'm talking about. But I was looking at Wounded Warriors and COPS and a bunch of these other organizations. And Alex happened to be part of the Alexander Police Youth Camp, which we'll get into later. But I'll get into the charity. But it was a really, really something I could sink my teeth into, and that is where it was born. So the Nova Rodeo was born in my living room, talking to a buddy of mine who's a motor officer in my local department. And we just started putting things together, and before you knew it, this thing grew legs of its own, and here we are today.
Can you tell us about the charity that benefits from this event?
Absolutely. Again, we talked about it earlier, sitting in my living room, I was looking at certain charities. And through the discussion I had with my buddy that's one of my co-founders, he was like, have you ever heard of the Alexandria Police Youth Camp? And obviously I hadn't. And so he explained it to me in words that really kind of resonated with me, and I'll give you the kind of the high points. So the bulk of it is the charity that we picked. Every single penny that we raise, every single dime that we raise goes directly to this charity. There's no middle person. For example, when you donate to these huge organizations, Special Olympics, Wounded Warriors, all that kind of thing, they have to take the operating costs off the top, okay? And you know, it could be 25 cents of every dollar, 50 cents of every dollar that goes to the actual charity after the overhead. For me, every single penny that we raise goes directly to the Alexandria Police Youth Camp, which was a huge deal for me. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I live in the city, and it directly benefits kids in the city that otherwise wouldn't be able to go to a summer camp. Because they're typically, underprivileged kids. They're typically kids that don't have the resources, the financial ability to go to what I view as probably one of the best camps, if not the best camp going right now, and I'll get into that. So when Alex kind of came to me and told me, and he was at the time he was president of the board, he really made it. He didn't have to sell me very much because I think it sold itself. And so I had the charity, and the charity basically, it started in, to kind of go back into the history of it, it started back in 1936. Some Alexandria police officers got together and wanted to start a youth camp. In 46, they purchased the property, and in 47, it became the Alexandria Police Boys Camp, and then through the evolution, it became the youth camp. So essentially, they bought a huge piece of property in Kilmarnock, Virginia, which is on the Chesapeake, and it overlooks the water. It is a beautiful, beautiful place, and since then, they've partnered with YMCA, and they bring kids from all over the state into this camp for, I think it's 5 or 6 weeks. So each camp runs a week. And they bring in these kids, and they come in for a week, and they just absolutely, it gives them a chance to be a kid. And who doesn't want to support that, right? And so I was fortunate enough to have my 2 kids into camp last year, and they came back and they're like beaming. I mean, they're like, Dad, I can't wait till next summer. To have their stamp of approval was huge to me. It was very well done, and to kind of give you like one little tidbit of many. They don't go to the open, sources and go and get like sandwiches, pre-made sandwiches and stuff. They actually have a chef that they bring in every week and prepares fresh meals for all those kids and the staff. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have freshly prepared meals at breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and everything. And so to have that quality of a camp, in my opinion, measures to the quality of rodeo that I wanted to do. And they two marry up really well. And so fast forward to today, the first year we raised, I think it was around $25,000, $26,000. Last year we raised $52,000. This year we're hoping to exceed that. And so it goes to a wonderful cause. It goes to the kids. Every single penny we raise goes to that camp, and it goes directly to funding those kids to go to camp, and to the upkeep and the maintenance of the camp. And so for me, I felt like it was just it was a good marriage between the event and the charity, and that's why we picked it. Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest takeaway for participants of the Nova Motorcycle Rodeo?
For the participants, again, the goal, in addition to the charity, the whole fulcrum, the crux of why this event takes place is rider safety. And you're not going to find a better place to have rider safety than Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area. You literally take your life in your own hands when you're on 2 wheels here. So to us, to the staff, it always comes down to rider safety, and that's what we promote first. So if we were to get 1, 2, 3 riders to come away and they leave on Saturday afternoon and they go, I feel like I'm a better rider, then it was worth the effort. We really try to cater to not only the experts and the novices, but I remember when I was a novice at Keystone, in Gettysburg, and I remember all of the experts coming and just giving of their time to help me out, get through a pattern that I didn't know how to get through. And it became a family kind of affair. And fast forward to today, I would say easily 60 to 70% of the people coming next week are all people I either compete with at other rodeos, compete against at other rodeos, which is phenomenal. But these people come out and they give of their time and their money. They book hotel rooms and the registration fees and everything to come and support this rodeo. And so the takeaway from that standpoint is the camaraderie and the esprit de corps, right? The networking. We have both police departments and civilians coming in next week. So the civilians obviously can learn from those seasoned motor officers that are here. And all those motor officers give of their time to help out. But with the really fundamental thing that I enjoy watching is when I go see the novice patterns and I see so many experts and so many uniformed officers over there helping out this one novice that can't get through, and then they make it through. You know, it's like, that's what it's about to me, because now that rider who's in the novice division who thought he or she could never make it through this pattern or making it through, that boost of confidence. I mean, you felt it. You ride on two wheels, right? So I could do an interview with you, honestly, to see how your riding has changed since you've gotten into this sport. And so for me, the key takeaway is if we can improve one or not, if not more riders to be safer out there, to be able to do a break and escape, a threshold braking exercise. If we can get them to where they can, thread the needle, if you will. Otherwise, they'd have gotten sandwiched between two vehicles, right? Something like that. Then for us, that's the takeaway that we can look back on the effort. You know, I'm collapsed on my couch, Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening at 6 o'clock, and I pass out for like 4 hours because I'm so exhausted. But I look at that and I go, it was worth it.
And lastly, all spectators are welcome. What are the key dates and times, as well as the location and a website with the info for the event?
So the key dates are going to be April 20th, 21st, and 22nd. It's going to be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday sort of thing. It's next week. It's at the intersection of Eisenhower Avenue and Port Street in Alexandria. The two ways tell people to get there is you can, on your navigation device, just put that intersection in, Eisenhower and Port, or you can just Google for the Eisenhower Metro Station. And it's kind of a funny thing. Just look for the sea of orange cones, because you can't miss it. If you're on Eisenhower and you're going towards the Potomac and you just pass the metro station, just look for the sea of cones, and that's going to be us. We'll have plenty of signage up. It's free for spectators to come in to watch. We encourage that. There's going to be, again, vendors and food on site. We'll have merchandise that folks can get into to help support the cause. Obviously, we're set up to take donations. We'll be selling raffle tickets right up until the awards ceremony on Saturday. If you wanted to come for one day, my recommendation would become Saturday. We're going to do a processional ride from the Alexandria headquarters into the parking lot. Our motor officer is going to be up front. Civilian riders are going to be in the back. We're projecting about 80-something riders that's going to be in this procession, and it's a really cool thing. We'll have an opening ceremony. The chief of police, the sheriff's going to come out there to say a couple opening words, and then we're going to open it up. All of our uniformed motor officers will be in uniform, and that's really the funnest, the most fun day to come out. We have the ever popular timed course, which is the course they try to get through as fast as they can without any penalties. But then we have the crowd favorites, which is going to be the team slow ride. We're also going to have something new this year. We're bringing it back, which is the tandem ride. So you basically put two motorcycles side by side, and they're tethered. Obviously it's detachable, but it's tethered, and they have to stay a certain feet away from each other the entire time where they're going around barrels. And then finally, the last thing, which is what everybody loves to see, is the last rider standing. And that's where we make a big square, we drop cones randomly through there, and the whole objective is to have the person you're in that pattern with either bump a cone, put a foot down, or drop their bike. And the last rider standing wins that particular event, and we do the awards, and then we call it into it, and then everybody hopefully goes home and enjoys the event. And again, to kind of emphasize the previous question you asked, leaves a better and a safer rider, but also supports the event that goes directly to the kids of the city of Alexandria. And so, Brad, I also want to thank you for a couple of things. For those of you that don't know, Brad comes out of his own time and really promotes this sport. He takes video from day one, from the first year that I met you. You came out and I had no idea who you were, and you're like, hey Mike, can I get some footage? I promise I won't go into the patterns or anything. And just from that point, the relationship that we've built with you, we can't thank you enough. I mean, you do things for Gettysburg, you do the video for us. We can't thank you enough for putting together wonderful videos and great footage from past events that you either compete in or that you go and film. So from our standpoint, we want to also thank you for promoting the sport, because you do a lot of effort of donating your time and your skill set and the cameras and everything that you bring out to put our sport out there in the world for people to see in a positive light. For that we would absolutely like to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, but I feel privileged to do that for you guys.
Yeah,
and for the community.
As I've said before, you've heard me say it and you'll hear it, you have an all-access pass to Nova. You always have and you always will, my friend.
Awesome, man. That makes me feel good. So.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thank you for your time, Mike.
Absolutely.
And it's always a pleasure talking with you. So
I'll see you next week, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. See you there.